Hi, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm here with Amanda Trought, who is on Barbados. I think that's how you say it in English, or maybe there's a difference between British English and American English. I think in Germany we say Barbados. So there you go. I'm so stoked to have Amanda for Creative Jumpstart 21, which is our 10th anniversary. The theme for this next year is storyteller. And I am in love with Amanda's amazing mixed media art. She is a wonderful artist using found objects, textiles. And it's just like you want to crawl into the computer and touch what she's making. It's so beautiful. She uses wood. We're going to talk about that too, because I have questions. And I'm so stoked that I discovered her through a wonderful organized event which was called Pass the Brush by Rachel, who's part of Creative Jumpstart too. This was a big gift for me, and I think many people this year, to just have more and wonderful artists that you could add to your feed. And yours is so exciting, and I'm excited. You said yes for Creative Jumpstart. You're also a teacher, but hey, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, in sunny Barbados. Yeah, we're in our hurricane season at the moment, so we're all on hurricane watch, and but thankfully for most years it manages to. We just get we get a lot of rain and flooding, but we don't get the damage and the devastation. But yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so good to have you. So Amanda, I don't know how much our people see in the actual interview, because when we it's always get edited and sides are being cut off, but you can see in the background some of her beautiful and colorful work. So you're in your studio right now.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And this is my creative space. Yeah.
And so if you would like think about where things are located in your studio, so that's your desk. What's in front of you or next to you?
Oh, right. Yeah. In front of me, I'm very blessed to be in this space, because in front of me, I've got a massive window. So it wraps around, and then the way the house is designed, it wraps around in the front room. So you get a lot of light. So I'm looking out into my garden that I love. It's my second love. So I'm planting all the everything that you can think of eating in a tropical environment, and I'm trying to put that out in my space. And so we have a lot of birds out there. We have a lot of wildlife lizards, and they seem to find my studio home as well. I've got my desk in front of me. What else have I got? And then all my tools and supplies. So as a mixed media artist, I work with so many different materials and tools, and these have been collected over the years. And so I started out by just drawing, and then I went to acrylics, and then I went to jewelry and beading. And so as I've grown in my art practice, so the supplies. And I have to remind people that, you might look at some of the tools and supplies I have and you think, oh, you have to go out and buy those things. And I'll say, this is a 25-year collection. So I always buy, two of one thing, maybe if it's a new supply, new paints, I'd buy the 3 primary colors and then see how I go, because I might not like that brand.
Right.
So or you go and, see what friends have got. Like I had a friend, she's passed now, she was very into pastels. And so I wanted to try it, but without making the commitment. And so we shared our supplies. So I always say to people, you can look at somebody and think, oh my gosh, I can't, afford all of that. But you don't have to, you start small. And then behind me, there's a stairway. And that was, I'm hoping in time will become a mini gallery, because I'm also hoping to do mini retreats here in Barbados, art retreats. And so it goes upstairs and then it opens up into another area where it's just like not a deck-in, but you get the sun there and there's a bit of shade, but that would be nice to have. And then nice to have workshops up there, and then you see the garden as well from an aerial view. And then just beside me is the wall that separates myself from the front room. And yeah, so the wall space. It was just a wooden panel, so I was able to just paint it in colours that I like and just express myself on. This is the largest piece. You probably can't see it, but this is the you can see little bits of it. And then just behind me is work and tools and supplies, and I've tried to make the space functional, so it's got all the things that I need to hand depending on what I'm working on, and try and use the space as best as possible. There's always more things that I can do with it and have more storage and then cull things that you don't need. So I'm into, whilst I'm a collector, some would say a hoarder, I still into, I've been finding, especially being in a different climate, that if I'm not using my supplies, they'll dry up. So there has to be a turnover, and I've already had paints and inks dry up, so that was a lesson well learnt. So I'm trying to kind of and I'm trying to cull what I don't need or what I'm not using or I haven't used for a few years. And there's an initiative here as well that you can give what you are not using to a materials bank, and other artists can use it, and that's just a great way to be able to. I'm trying to make room so that more can come in.
Speaking of that, Amanda, which is interesting because you said you're doing this for 25 years, or you're an artist for doing mixed media art for 25 years. So you, as me, moved countries, right? So did you bring a lot of stuff, or were you even able to bring a lot of stuff that you already had in London over to Barbados, or did you really have to kind of downsize and then accumulate new?
I think the family wanted me to downsize, but we were lucky because my husband's Barbadian and he was a returning national. We could bring in stuff for a reduction in terms of the duty. So before I knew that when I knew that we were coming, I went out and bought the supplies that I wanted to have or needed or thought that might be a lot more expensive here, like the things that I could buy in England, like air dry clay, and I could get that for like a $5. It's like $54. So it's, a lot more expensive. It's just like, oh my God. So I think the perspective is, if we had 250 boxes, 200 of those boxes were my books, my supplies, my materials. I was just like, what's going on? As I was writing the labels for the boxes, I was thinking, oh, okay, so I'm past the 100 now. I can't be any, and then 200 was like, oh, okay. Perhaps I should have done a little cull, but I just thought, I'm going to need. I don't want to have to buy stuff. I don't want to have to import, because everything would be imported from the States if I'm buying art supplies and things. So I was able to bring everything that I needed, and I have brought stuff since, mainly sort of like to do with fabric and fabric inks and things like that. And also, since being here, I've wanted, and being in the space that we're in now, because we've been here for 3 years, I wanted to incorporate a lot more natural materials, and so that's where the woods came in, looking at natural dyes. The fabrics came in because I've got cotton plants, and so I grow and harvest the cotton.
Wow.
I went to London. I've got a spindle, so I spin the cotton and I interweave it into weaving projects and the mixed media art that I do. So so moving a bigger space, I was able to do more things because in London, I started off on my kitchen table, and that had to be cleared every night so that every day. And then when my stepdaughter left home, my son moved into her room, and I had a box room which was 6 foot by 9 foot. So it was my very own space to leave. I can leave stuff, finally leave stuff. And I was happy with that. And yeah, as I've moved, the space has got bigger. When we first arrived, I had another room with my own room, and I was able to start doing the sculptures. And I've got, I think, a couple behind me. And as I say, work bigger because on the kitchen table you couldn't, and I didn't have the storage space, and especially with all the supplies and things like that. So yeah, now I've incorporated the harvested wood and the cotton, and things have to dry, and I can experiment more.
Yeah, that's so cool. And speaking of these found object that you incorporate too, I was very intrigued. You have one video on your Instagram that I really, really love. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I love, but just like watching it is mesmerizing. You have these like found pieces of wood, and you use a wood burning tool to create some pattern in those pieces. What are you gonna do with those? Amazing. Besides sending them to me, of course, but like.
Well, interestingly enough, so the wood is grown. So I grow the wood in the trees, and it's like when I'm cutting back, I find like nice pieces that are a nice length or smooth, and it's from the moringa tree. Mm-hmm. So that wood is a soft wood, so it's nice to burn into. So I use those in my wall hangings. So when I first started to make the wall hangings, I was just using a wooden dowel that I would buy at the art supply store. And then looking around the garden, as more things are growing, I'm thinking, okay, I've got so many, I can experiment now. I've got a mahogany tree. I can, cut the wood from that. That's very hard. And I just went around the garden looking at, the different types of wood I had and how it would respond when I peeled the bark back, or if I, when I dried it out. And the moringa was the nicest. Not the nicest, but it was the easiest to work with. Yeah, so I use them in wall hangings at the moment. I use them and I make embellishments. So they would be the pieces that hang from the wall hanging. I incorporate beads with them. When I burn into them, I use gold rub-on. I varnish them. So they're an art piece in themselves, and with the larger pieces, do kind of sculptural wall hangings, where they would be the feature as opposed to, as part of the fabric. So it's about, I think one of the things initially was about saving money. So how can I not go and buy these either square or rounded dowels from the art store that just looks ordinary, and how can I create something? I'm saving money by using the wood from my garden, and I can make it beautiful.
Yes, and it's
like embellishing it. Yeah,
it's more meaningful too, and also environmentally more friendly, of course. Then it has to come right somewhere to a store, to then again by plane or whatever to Barbados. And you were chatting before, and you said you're dreaming of maybe having an art retreat sometime and using all kinds of things from your garden. Did you have a garden before in London?
I did. It was just it was very narrow, but it was like 80 foot. But I never, those sort of, creative thoughts were never in my mind. It was just like, oh, I want to grow sunflowers. Oh, we had a plum tree. Oh, we can, get some of the plums. So I was always green thumbed because I got that from my mum. But I never thought of planting any food or using anything that I could use in a creative way. It was just like not on my radar. And coming to Barbados, one thing I said was I wanted to grow all the food, or the tropical food, or the fruit trees. I wanted to grow fruit trees. I wanted to be able to go out into the garden and just reach my hand up and pick something and be able to eat it. And so even then, when we arrived, using the things from the garden wasn't in my mind until I was here kind of, taking the rocks out of the soil. And I saw this white stuff all over the place. I was thinking, what is that? And then I thought, oh my gosh, it's cotton. And then I thought, I can't have, I had one cotton tree and I've now got 4. And I was like, I can't have these things growing and not use it, because it was just growing and then just blowing all over the place. And so when I went back to London, I thought, okay, I need to spin this. I need to be able to find a way to spin it, because I couldn't find any hand spindles here in Barbados. And that's how it all started, 2 years on. The idea of, being able to use any other wood than that from my garden is just like, there's no way I can.
Why would I do that? Yeah.
There's so many different types of wood here that give you so many different effects that it's just like, and it's just amazing, but it's also a therapeutic activity.
Mm.
So, just going out, looking at the wood, thinking, okay, I'm going to use that bit, the stripping back of the bark. And so I use that as all part of my creative process that can impact on me. And I feel that everything that we do creatively impacts on our health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding those things that you can do that you think, okay, this is a repetitive thing, but it's part of a whole piece.
Mm.
So when I look at a wall hanging, it's not just me painting or stitching, it's locating the wood, locating the fabric, locating the threads, finding the beading, burning the wood, embellishing the wood, and that's a whole part of, a thing in itself. Painting the fabric is one of the things, and then, putting the things together, the fabric together, the stitches, what stitches am I going to use? How are the beads? The beads going to hang from this, incorporating the beads and the pieces of wood. And so, this whole thing then becomes a meditative piece that you get value from. And what I hope is that the person viewing the work or buying the work will feel that kind of energy that I put in that, being meditative and calming my thoughts and just appreciating the fact that I can do this. Yeah. So.
Right. That's pretty amazing. And no, it sounds amazing. And I think that comes through with your work, even online. It definitely comes through. We are like, wow, there's so much of you in there, but also of the place you live in. And it makes me happy to just look at it. I want to touch it though. So that's,
that's the thing. Because I was thinking, we grow up with, no, you can't touch that. No, you can't touch that. So I want my work, I want you to hold it, because again, it's that energy that comes through our pieces. When we create, we're putting energy within that piece of work. And I think, I've heard stories of people, having quilts or looking at a quilt or having it in their room and being healed by it. We know that the colours, colours have an impact on our health and well-being. We know that it can affect our moods. So why not the pieces of art that we have around us and, being able to touch it? I mean, obviously we have to think about, okay, if everybody's touching it up, then, in terms of but some of the pieces I make are to be, held and felt, and especially the fabric sculptures, because you just want to feel all the different types of texture. So, yeah. So when you buy a piece, you're encouraged to touch it.
I know. So you said that, you use all these different things on your intricate textile pieces, but do you work on one piece at a time? I mean, they're so not cumbersome, because you're liking it. That's the wrong word. I'm looking for there's a lot of work in it. Do you work on just one piece and you put all your energy and concentration in one, or do you have certain different ones because you're like, I need to relax, I don't know, on this repetitive, thing and do something different for a couple hours?
I don't get bored, but I have to have more than one thing going on at the same time. And it started out when I was, in terms of painting or art journaling. And when I used to, if you're art journaling in one book, if you've added paint, it has to dry, and I like things to dry naturally. So I would then go on to another piece. So now it's all about how I feel. How am I feeling? And I'm tending to that. Do I want to do this repetitive stitch? If not, I want to paint, or I want to do some wood burning. Like the way that I structure my day is that first thing in the morning, I do whatever I'm feeling. So this morning I got up and I was using my wood burning tool, but I was using it on leather.
Cool.
And I've just got scraps of leather, and that's all I felt like doing, creating images, creating marks, creating designs on leather. Tomorrow it might be, actually, I haven't worked on my art journal. I want to lay down some collage paper, or with a stitch piece, I just want to, add this bit to this particular piece. So I'm always working on different pieces, and I've probably got at least 100 different stitch projects that need to be worked on. But I just go through it and say, am I feeling this colour? Do I want to work on this colour? Do I want to work with these shapes? Or do I want to just add fabric on a collage piece and just pin it? Again, do I want to create some painted pieces? So I might just be, getting some fabric or getting paper and just creating painted paper or painted fabric, like you would, jelly plate. And you just, add the colour and then just make at least 100 or however many you feel like making. And so that's how I work. I say, how am I feeling? Do I want to work on this? Obviously, I have certain projects that needs to be finished. But I will intersperse it because I find that I get, I don't know, that it's again, the bored is not the right word because I never get bored with create. But I need to attend to another part of how I'm feeling. And whilst I can't express what it is, working with a piece of art might help me do that or help me satisfy that need. So I can't necessarily always express what I need verbally, but when I reach, say, there are certain pieces I might look at now and say, no, I'm not feeling you. I'm feeling just working on some, wood burning, some leather. And so I allow myself to go with the flow of how I'm feeling. And that's taken a while because it was, very, okay, you've got to work on the one thing. And I wanted to get away from that because you're always told, right, what is the one thing you're going to do? You want to be an artist? You've got to have something to fall back on, or no, you can't do that. You've got to, do something else, and then you can do that as a hobby. And so, trying to come out of that over the years, it's just like, if I don't want to work on the one thing, what would I want to do?
Right.
I don't want to be a jewelry. I don't mean I don't want to just be a jewelry designer. And that's mixed media.
Right.
Was the thing that gave me the permission to work on as many things as I wanted to work on.
I love that. Well, and I also think it is that you pointed out something very important, that there's many artists, not just artists, but people have like morning routines. And, some people say, oh, you got to write your morning pages or you got to start with art journaling. But it is about like having a ritual and kind of like listening to what's going on in you. And I've loved that you said you found this way of doing that by just listening to, I'm going to do whatever I feel like. And that's what I do first thing in the morning and not what I have to do. That's like you give yourself permission to like be yourself and to listen into yourself, but still being creative, which makes you happy. I think that's awesome.
Because we don't allow ourselves enough time to play, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
We're focused on, yes, I've got to create these pieces, but when do you play and experiment? And so it was just like, I used to do my morning pages. I've done morning pages for, again, over 20 years. For the last, say, year, I think since the beginning of the year, I haven't been able to do my morning pages, and I found I needed something that, and that's where I turned to the stitching. When we started to go into all of this, lockdown and quarantine, I felt that things were out of my control, and the fact that the whole world, this was a global event happening to all of us, we all experienced it. I felt I needed to bring some sort of control, and doing the stitching was the thing that allowed me to feel, I felt comforted more so than me putting in my journal, go today, we can't go out and, we've got to stay in. So I was expressing through stitch and expressing through the painted fabric. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to ever go back to morning pages. And I found that a really useful tool. But me pouring out into my creativity, into my supplies, was the thing that then allowed me that same feeling I got when I was doing my morning pages. And it was just like, when do you play?
Yeah.
When do you experiment? Because that is then going to inform what you do, and it has. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if you struggle with writing, or whatever you think you're supposed to do in the morning to get yourself into the creative mood, or an exercise that you usually do if you have like 20 minutes, take that's like, listen to what you just want to do, and if it's like a piece of pattern paper, or trying a new brush with some ink that you just got recently, and just see what you do with circles or anything really. That's a great advice. I think that's very good. So for Creative Jumpstart, as I said, the theme is storyteller. You could show something that you love to have around while you're creating, and maybe show it to us and tell a little story about it, why you have it around. And so did you pick something?
Okay. Well, this is not necessarily a tool, but it's something that I have around, and if you can see, it's a clock. Now, this clock belonged to my father, and he's been gone for 28 years now. But it was something that I never noticed, and when he passed, I wanted to keep everything. Like, my mother wanted to clear the place. And I guess that's how she was dealing with her grief. My dad was a collector like me, so he had a lot of stuff. But I never actually saw. I saw what he had, in the sense that as I was clearing, I saw it, but I never actually saw what it meant. And the hard thing is that for a lot of us as artists, that you could be you do your painting, you're doing all the different things you do, you've got your work around you, but when you've gone, what are you remembered for? Your stuff is packed up, given away, and the value that you place on the things and not the value that those people who are left behind have. And when I took everything that my dad had, and I brought it to my apartment that I lived in at the time, and I slowly went through it. And I mean, now I've got few of the things, but the things that I do have are the most important things for me. And this clock is one of them, because he actually was creative as well, but I never saw it growing up. He had a sewing machine. He would do stuff with leather. I've got a lot of his tools, his metal rulers, wooden rulers, things that he would measure with. And so he would make things. And I never saw all of this. And this was all before, I guess I was born. But he just brought all his stuff when he moved from Jamaica to England. And going through it now, it's just like, not going through it now, but looking at these things now, time for me is really important. And I grew up with so what is the one thing? You're going to be a teacher, a nurse, or work in an office, a secretary, or whatever. And it was just like, those four things, the only things that are available to me. And when I look back now and think about what I'm doing, and think about, if you had started on this journey, or what would I tell myself, my younger self, it's like, just go with what you want to do. And the time is really important, because I have, quite a bit of time has passed since, I was growing up and a young girl. And then the time that I've now got left is shorter than the time that I've just had. And so how are you going to appreciate the time that you've got? This is a constant reminder, because this clock is a wind-up clock. You have to wind it up every 24 hours. And so it's just like I'm constantly reminded, okay, you're doing the things that you really want to do. Are you, you say you want to experiment. Okay, have you experimented enough? Don't restrict yourself. So I said, today it was just like, oh, I feel like doing some more leather burning. And the critic is always saying, well, why are you doing that? What do you think you're doing that for? And the critic says to me, well, why do you want to do that? You're supposed to be doing something else. And it was just like, no, but these pieces, even though I have no idea what I'm going to do with these pieces are going to inform a new piece of work.
Right.
So I give myself the time. And so I came in, I set the time, I wound it up. And it is, again, part of the ritual that is all part of my whole creative process. And so, I look back and think, oh my gosh, I gave away my dad's Singer machine before I realised I was going to want to get into sewing, and that would have been a vintage piece. I've got some of his threads that he used, and the spools of threads. I now look at those things with more appreciation, because after 25 years things become vintage. So it's just like you've got all these vintage things, and this. I don't know whether my dad went out and brought this or whether he made this, but he was always making things. And he had it must have been about a 3 by 6 foot shed that he put his bike in, and he had all these supplies, all these tools, nuts and bolts and things like that. So that is the piece that, I always, is always here. It's always in the background. You can hear the ticking, and it's just a reminder for me to, really value the time I'm spending in my studio space. And there is nothing that is ever a waste of time in here. The time you spend, it's all about, as I say, for me, health and well-being. So even if I'm not working on a project, I'm impacting on my health and well-being, and it's making me a better artist.
Definitely. And I love that you chose that and showed it to us. This is really, really amazing. And it made me think of something that I just read recently that really resonated with me from an art critique. Jerry Saltz, he's an art critique for the New York Times. And he said, he had a little book and he said something about it in how do you measure success as an artist? And it basically came down for him, how we should measure success is that you're actually making time and having the time to create art. And I was like, wow, because there's a lot of things that when you think about how to make a living as an artist, all the things that you have to do that take away from the time to actually make art. And then you're like thinking, okay, or you might not sell art, or there's all these things that you're thinking about, like what you should do or what you should be able to be a successful artist. But at the end of the day, if you don't have time to create art, then what's left, right? So I thought
that's why that's why I like the creative jumpstart, because we all think, like I started out my art journey thinking, I need 3 hours to create art. I need to have all this time, and I never had it. And it was just like, well, I can't create art then. And it was just like, no, you can. You've got time.
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, and that's what we have to keep reminding ourselves, that even if you've only got 10 minutes, you can do something.
Exactly. So that was so cool. I loved hearing that story. And Amanda, where can people actually find you and your classes and your artwork online?
Well, I've got a website, and it's www.realityarts.co.uk. I'm on Instagram under Reality Arts, and if you go onto my profile in my Instagram profile, you'll see other links to, I do a podcast, I've got a YouTube channel. If you just Google Reality Arts, you'll find me. But yeah, so you can definitely find, I will be having some courses out later on during the year on smart courses. So I'll be, it'd be a pleasure to have you join me.
Yeah, and then hopefully soon, when the whole pandemic thing is over in some time, then we all will be there for the event, the retreat at your place. I would love that. Would be so cool. So
I love it because great. That'd be great.
Right. And then also sign up for Creative Jumpstart. I cannot wait to see her wonderful video. I know you're in for a treat. If you're seeing this interview on Amanda's social media, please make sure that you use her personal affiliate link. It will give her a bigger piece of the pie. And right now, because teaching is a little bit tough for all of us, and selling artwork, it will make all of us creatives happy. So use her link, follow that one, and I cannot wait to see what she has up her sleeves. Well, she actually has no sleeves because she's in Barbados and it's warm there. But it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm super excited.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited as well.